Bonjour, mes amis. Hello, my friends. I'm Dustin. This is Survey Homestead. I need to tell you guys some more things about our old John Deere tractor. We've had some more PTO problems, unfortunately. This old tractor, man, golly, I need it, but it's been so much trouble. We have a lot of property to cut. So even after all that work of repairing the PTO box in the back of the tractor, we had another failure, and this time teeth broke off of the intermediate gear. So I started doing research about just using the fast 1000 RPM shaft to run the shredder. People do it sometimes because they need to, and sometimes because they feel like the faster speed just gives a cleaner cut. They warn that you just really need to make sure you don't hit anything, because you'll probably break something if you hit a rock or a serious stump turning your shredder at that speed. Most shredders are made to run at the 540 RPM speed. So I went through different ideas. I thought about creating a second shaft and getting a slower speed by using two different sized bicycle gears and a short chain, but I quickly realized that it didn't look like it would be strong enough. I also thought about pulleys and a belt. I thought about maybe reducing the speed right at the gearbox on top of the brush cutter. None of these things were really panning out in the planning phase. So I did some research and talked to one of my brothers about just running at the 1000 RPM, and that's when I found out that it is okay. So my brother suggested using this older shredder instead of the big 5-footer that we have, and changing the oil in the gearbox to be a high quality oil, or at least put some additive in it just to make sure nothing burns up in there while turning it at 1000 RPM. And some of the articles I read said that you could run the engine at a slightly slower speed, and that will reduce the speed of the PTO, even though it's basically independent, and it does run at about 1000 RPM regardless of the engine speed. The engine speed still does affect it a little bit. So running the engine a little bit slower will cause the PTO to run a little bit slower. I mentioned this in previous videos, but some of the things frustrating with this tractor are that there's not a lot of information about it out there, and it wasn't the greatest design tractor in John Deere's history. It was sort of the first of its kind, the first set of 4-cylinder tractors instead of the big, slow 2-cylinder diesel tractors, and it just had some flaws. Also, the repair manual I had was terrible. It actually even had some mistakes. Like it said that the top socket was the 1000 RPM and the bottom was the 540, and that's just not true. Overall, I'd say it's actually a decent tractor for its age and its type and its purpose, even though it gets a bad reputation by people online. So let me tell you what it's been like running this ancient 4-foot Bush Hog on 1000 RPM. It's actually been okay. It doesn't seem like it's spinning a lot faster than it used to, even though it's spinning almost double. It doesn't really show. I did put a piece of tape on each socket in the past to make sure that the manual was wrong and I wasn't going crazy. And when I had a flap of tape, it was obvious that one was spinning faster than the other, the bottom one. So the reason this works is because the PTO is driven directly at the 1000 RPM socket. So even though I've had problems in that box back there with the intermediate gear failing, I can still use the 1000 RPM drive because it's driven directly from the transmission area. Now there does seem to be something slipping, because when I go into really thick grass or just try to cut a little too low, the PTO will stop turning. And I've been wondering if that dry clutch in there can be adjusted. Maybe it's just the plates are thin or it's worn out. Maybe the plates are just burned and they're not gripping to each other like they should be. But it definitely slows and stops spinning if I try to cut grass that's too thick. So I need to figure that out. So overall, is it okay to run a brush cutter on the 1000 RPM PTO? I would say yes. I would take precautions, try it out in a small area to make sure it's going to work, and always listen and feel and be aware in case something goes bad. So this is my only option right now, using this old tractor with the 1000 RPM output. And the next step is to figure out why it's slipping in really thick grass. Hopefully I can fix that, and she'll be cutting grass again like in her glory days. My next plans, hopefully this coming winter, are to replace the piston rings in the engine. I have a lot of blow by. The oil gets black and thin really quickly, and there's constant smoke when it runs. So hopefully I can increase the compression, which would increase the output power and make it run more efficiently and let the oil last longer. Well, there's my update on our old John Deere 2010 and the PTO issues we've been having with it. I hope that this information helps somebody out there. Take care. We'll see y'all on the next one. Keep on fixing stuff. Au revoir, young hawks.